Okay, hello. So this is the correction of the first part of the Nusbaum case, which is a classic cost volume profit analysis exercise. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create names in order to make clearer the formulas which I use. So I go to formulas and then I ask to create names from a selection. So I've selected two columns, and Excel is going to use the names of the first column and assign them to the neighboring cells in the second column. So I just have to say that I want here the left column to contain the names by automatically Excel has identified that I want to do this, and I just validate. And you see now that if I click on that cell, it's now called price. This one is called UCM. Here I have a list of all the names. I can see them also in the name manager, which are here. So that's pretty useful. Okay, so now let's start the exercise. The contribution margin ratio is the UCM over my price. It's not 0. It's actually 0.3, or if you prefer 30%. Every time you sell 100, then you get a unit contribution margin of 30. Then let's say we are going to sell 25,000 units, so the sales will be 25,000 units multiplied by 1,200. That's 30 million. The corresponding contribution margin will be 25,000 multiplied by 360. So it's 9 million. The fixed costs were 6 million. So the EBIT is the contribution margin minus the fixed cost. And we get 3 million. One thing you can do with Excel is to solve an equation with just one unknown variable. And for instance, if you're looking for the number of units which will enable you to get a 0 EBIT, in other words, if you're looking for the break-even point, Excel can solve that for you. So let's click on units, and let's go for data and what-if analysis, or scenario analysis in French. And you go for target value in French, but it's called goal seek in English. And then you can say that you want to define the EBIT, which is B8. You want it to be 0, and you want the units to be the cell which is going to change, the cell that you're looking for. So if you validate, you see that Excel has solved that equation, and you see that the break-even point is 16,667. Okay, then if you want to create a chart easily, well, you would put, in fact, the units here instead. Then the contribution margin, that's the contribution per unit multiplied by the number of units. You can copy this here. The fixed costs are going to be 6 million anyway, here and there. And the EBIT will be the contribution margin minus fixed cost. For the moment, it's a loss. Then I will select those two cells, and I will spread and copy. And you see that Excel increments by a step of 2,500 because there were a difference of 2,500 units between the first and the second column. And you go on like that. For instance, you go on till you get 27,500. If you want, you can insert an additional cell. You make it equal to the break-even point, and you copy this, and you get something which is close to 0. And afterwards, you can make a chart out of that. For instance, one easy way to select a table is to type Control and then star. Then you insert an XY scatter chart like this. Okay, well, you can make it maybe a little bit nicer. Well, no, it's not really nicer, so I bring it back as it was. Then what you can do, and to conclude the exercise, is to integrate the break-even point and the EBIT. So this is what I'm going to do here. But first, here I add a data label, which I make slightly bigger, and I do the same here. And then I'm going to create a segment, which is the break-even point segment. The abscissa of the break-even point is 16,667 units. This abscissa is valid for the low point, but also for the high point. And the ordinate of the break-even point is it's a segment which has 0 as a low point, and the fixed cost for the high point, which are 6 million. So we have those elements, and what I'm going to do, I go back to my chart and I will ask to select data and to add those data. So my series of data is going to be called the break-even point. The abscissa values are there. The ordinate, strangely, this little thing appears. You've got to get rid of that, and instead you select the two ordinate values, and you see that your segment has appeared right here. Okay, so you validate, and then you're gonna create a second segment. So you add again something which is going to be called the EBIT, and okay, but for the moment the EBIT is not really ready, but its values will be here when I get them, and the ordinate will be there. So I validate, but then I have to put the abscissa of the EBIT, which is 25,000 units, and here it's also 25. And the ordinate, the low point of the EBIT, since we subtract 6 million to the contribution margin, so the EBIT starts above the 6 million value, and the high point is the contribution margin you get for 25,000 units, and it's 9 million. 9 million is this, and you see that the EBIT value appears there. So this is it, and the last thing I'm going to do is to move the chart to another sheet to get something which takes advantage of all the available room, like this, for instance. I can do something like that. Oops. Okay, that's it.